In this video, I will show you how to install the suspension rail for an Ikea-based kitchen cabinet. The process is pretty much the same for the upper cabinet rail except for the height measurements. First, you will need to find the wooden framing boards, aka studs, in your wall, which is what you attach the rail to. In my video about the upper cabinet rail installation, I explained the stud finding process in depth, which I will not do again this time. Next, you will need to decide how high your rail should be. The instructions say that the bottom of the rail should be about 32 inches off the ground, which takes into account the height of the feet extended a little bit. You can test this out for yourself by assembling one of your bottom cabinets and feet and placing it upright. It works. Then you need to decide how long you want to make each rail. It is better to cut as few pieces as possible and that each one be as long as possible and should be at a minimum touching 2 to 4 studs. It should run at a minimum the width of your cabinets minus 3/4 of an inch on the ends if you can't reach all the way to the end. Before making any cuts to your rail, make sure the holes align with the studs that you plan to use. The holes in the rails are designed for studs that are 16 inches apart. Make sure to cut your rail at least as wide as your outermost cabinets because the brackets sit on the outer edges of the back of the cabinets minus maybe 3/4 of an inch. I like to use my cordless metal grinder to make the cuts because it is easy and efficient using these blue metal cutoff discs. And it's best to do the cutting outside so that you don't leave a mess from all the flying sparks and debris. After you've cut your rail, once again make sure it fits into the space and that it is as wide as your cabinets and that the holes align with the studs that you marked. If your rail is too short on either end, your cabinet could end up hanging off the edge of the rail, so I recommend you go all the way to the edge of the cabinet and or your adjacent wall and even try to hit the framing studs at the ends of the walls if possible. Once you align the holes of your rail and level it, mark the holes that you plan to drill and then mark the bottom or top of the rail itself to use as a guide and make sure it stays level after you start drilling. Then drill pilot holes into those holes that you marked. I purchased these 2.5 inch cabinet screws that have a star-shaped head and come with a star-shaped bit in the box. For cabinets, the internet says to use number 10 or number 12 size screws that are 2.5 to 3 inches long. These say that no pre-drilling is needed, but since I have an old property with old brittle studs, I decided to drill pilot holes anyways, using a 1/8 inch bit. I used blue tape to mark the depth of my screws on the bit to know how deep to drill my holes. When attaching the rail, you will need to use the supplied washer things because the holes in the rail are much larger than any screw heads. In the Ikea instructions, they are shown sitting horizontally, but I placed them vertically. Make sure to use flat screws so that they don't get in the way when you try to hang your cabinets on the rail. I would start in the middle and attach the first screw there. Then make sure the rail is still level by using a level or the marks on your walls that I told you to make earlier. Then go out to the ends, adding more screws, make sure it stays level. If you notice that your wall is not flat in any place, you can even it out by